Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster, NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, and retired FBI agent and criminal profiler and current director for the Forensic Science Program at George Mason University, Mary Ellen O'Toole. All right, Tom, I'm going to start with you. It was a long news conference today from both state and federal law enforcement. What did we find out?
Incredibly detailed press conference, incredibly detailed charging complaint that we got with this, Katie, over 20 pages. And what it points out in what they said at the press conference, what the court documents appear to clearly show, the allegations against this individual, now 6 counts, including on the murder charges that we're looking at there on screen. Those are death penalty eligible charges. But what has been painted in the court paperwork is that this could have been a lot worse. If local law enforcement had not immediately reacted by sending officers to other houses of those that were lawmakers in their area, that this individual could have kept going through the night, because he apparently had, according to the acting U.S. attorney, dozens of names in the course of his notebooks that they found in the car. By the way, in the car, they also found several assault-type rifles. They found an additional handgun. We have images of it. It's seen in there. And what he was doing, according to the notes, and this leads to us to 2 of the counts, which are the stalking counts, he was online on all these various People Finder websites, looking up information, including county and various municipality websites, looking up information on these state lawmakers. There is not something in there, according to the acting U.S. attorney, that is something like a screed or a manifesto where this individual would say, oh, I did it because of X, and this is why I did that. There's not something that quite spells that out. Did confirm that a number of the individuals on the list, or at least names that appeared in the writings, were those that had pro-choice views when it comes to abortion, or espoused those views. So we did get some clarification on that. It was several dozen names that were on there. But very clearly, this individual had a plan, was out there to do a significant amount of damage. And if law enforcement hadn't uncovered him on the 4th location that he went to, where he was actively involved in a shooting, the 2 that you mentioned were miraculously going to recover, who knows how long this
How did they get
on
on the case so quickly?
So the initial shooting happens. They see that it's a homicide. The daughter of the 2 deceased calls 911. According to the acting U.S. attorney in the charging documents, apparently Belter gets to the front door and says, you know, it's police. He's got the flashing lights on the car. He's shining the light in their faces. He's wearing this silicone mask. You're looking at it right there in one of the images. And so they say to him, you know, you're not police. What are you talking about? He says, well, I'm here to conduct a robbery. So his story changes. Then they try to stop him from coming into the home. He starts firing at them. The daughter is home at the house, calls 911. So immediately she can tell them what is going on. Obviously, they understand that this is a state lawmaker. And through quick thinking by local law enforcement, they say, you know what, if this guy in the middle of the night is trying to impersonate a police officer, showing at the home of a state lawmaker and firing, perhaps other state lawmakers' lives could be in jeopardy. And that's how they start getting on the case. It appears that a majority of the incident is captured on a Ring camera or some sort of a doorbell camera there at the residence.
Do we know anything about the other houses that he went to, who those lawmakers were, what happened there?
It's spelled out in the complaint. Just the quick story on that is that the 2nd location, the state lawmaker was not home. They were on vacation.
Lucky.
The 3rd one, police show up there. He's there sitting in his car. They start to ask him questions. He then kind of takes off from that location. And so, you know, if you see somebody dressed as a police officer, they're there, they're not talking to you, they leave, they go to investigate the house, but he was never able to actually get to that address.
And so what do we know? I know there wasn't a manifesto. It's what lawmaker officers or law enforcement was saying, that they didn't have a clear manifesto. You just laid that out as well. But do we know anything about his personal political convictions? Because they are also calling this politically motivated.
They are calling it politically motivated. They call it a flat-out political assassination. That's what they said at the press conference. Yeah, so, you know, he's got a history, apparently, of being somebody who's more conservative. That's his background. That's where he comes from, according to those that say that they know him, that have spoken out about his background and his history. So that's what we know about him. Specifically, though, as I said, he's not being charged with anything ideological here. So they're not charging him with the domestic terrorism. They're not charging him with any sort of a crime that speaks to something. But you could call it a political assassination because all he was going after were state lawmakers. So clearly this has a political component to it. He didn't choose these people at random.
And I'm sorry to keep on you, but I have one more. I mentioned first-degree murder charges in the open, but officially it's second-degree murder charges. What are they waiting for first degree? Right.
So there's been a little bit of a change up there, and I want to address that. Initially, the state charged him with second-degree murder charges. That was just a holding charge. What they can do when that happened on Saturday, Katie, is they can issue an interstate all-state warrant, basically saying anybody that picks this guy up, if he was in Chicago and your local Chicago Police Department officer and you pull this guy over, you can detain him right there because he's got a out-of-state warrant that's available to grab him. That's what they wanted to do. Since they didn't know where he was, they wanted to give every other state in the country and federal law enforcement the opportunity to detain him. This morning, they charged him on the state side with first-degree murder. The federal system, that first, second degree doesn't really apply. They've charged him with a homicide charge. 2 of those counts are death penalty eligible.
Got it. So, Mary Ellen, let's talk about how he was able to find these lawmakers. They have their addresses listed publicly. A lot of public officials or public faces have their addresses online. It's something that you can get through open source reporting. It's through, your bills that get sent to your home, whatever. Is that something this country needs to reconsider, whether it is a smart idea for everybody to be able to access the personal information of others on a database online?
Well, I don't know how you really get away from that, though, 100%. I think some information is just out there, and it's going to be accessible to people that want to really work hard and find it. But I will add something on that may make this even a more concerning situation. When I was in the BAU, we called it predatory behavior a lot. And predatory behavior is really defined as hunting human being behavior. I would not be surprised, and I'm assuming that they will be looking at this. This individual was probably not just looking for addresses. He probably took advantage of some situations where he could meet the person in person, maybe at a political event, and actually shake their hand. That would give him a lot of pleasure to know I'm going to kill you in the next week or two. So I think there could have been some personal meetings that he had with these people that had no idea that they were on some kind of a hit list created by him.
How does the FBI prevent this? How do they find people before they take action?
Well, to me, as I listened to the press conference today, it does seem to me, anyway, that this kind of behavior resulted in what we call leakage, which is to at least announce ahead of time and maybe in covert ways what their intentions were, whether it was to a friend or to a family member. And I can tell you that leakage has been prominent in mass shootings and in other events similar to this. And I cannot underscore enough how much leakage behavior becomes imperative that people come forward to law enforcement and advise them what's going on. And I know people don't want to rat out their family members. They love them. But unfortunately, when there is leakage, combined with access to weapons, combined with this enjoyment of dress rehearsals, which is probably playing a prominent role in this, getting dressed up, deciding on what you're going to wear the night you go out to commit these murders, all that's leakage that has to come to the attention of law enforcement so that they can prevent it.
What is the conversation like between investigators and his family right now?
Well, they're going to be, I think, very considerate of the family because they need their cooperation. They need them to feel as though that they can get as complete of information as possible. Again, if they put them on guard, if they're hostile towards family members, law enforcement knows they won't get anything. Because I will tell you over and over again, we said this every day in the FBI, and it's true. It's applicable to all of us. Blood is thicker than water. And to get a family member to come forward, especially now that you're looking at a death penalty case, is extremely difficult. They love this man. They do. And so law enforcement has to tread very lightly, and they have to develop a relationship with family members, even friends, to tell them, look, this is serious. And not only in this case, but we have to be concerned about other people that are inspired by what they saw your father do or your best friend do. So we really need help.
I'm hoping that you can help people generally understand the moment that we're in. because it's scary and it's concerning. We've seen an uptick in political violence. How is law enforcement looking at this moment? What are the factors that are concerning them?
I would say there's several factors, and law enforcement for many years, for the past 25 plus years, we've been aware of how current cases like this, starting with Columbine, how they have influenced future offenders. We've known that. And at this point, this kind of behavior being influenced by what you can learn and read about on the internet has really become metastasized. So there's no one single solution. Law enforcement knows that. Law enforcement is big on these warning behaviors, this leakage kind of behavior that I've talked with you about. So I think, number one, I think that is probably the most important message that law enforcement really considers. And that's really a big part of the training that we have in law enforcement, is to be able to recognize this behavior. The other thing that law enforcement is very much aware of, and yet I still hear it used incorrectly by the public, is that this is not behavior that is the result of somebody having just snapped. This list, these writings have been probably put together over a period of at least months, if not longer. So this person has really evolved over time in thinking about what they're going to do. So there is months in the planning. Law enforcement knows that as well. This is not a matter of snapping behavior. And words like snapping and evil, this person is a monster, they're not helpful at all, because they give them a misconception about who these individuals are. This is cold-blooded, number one, very well planned out, and predatory in its nature. And those all add up to what we saw happen over the weekend that resulted in 2 homicides and 2 attempted homicides.